We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including a new article suggesting that the Detroit Red Wings are heavily connected to center Mason McTavish of the Anaheim Ducks. They might actually be the team to watch should the Ducks decide to make a trade. We'll discuss what NHL executives are saying about the connection there, what the cost might be to pull off a trade. It's not going to be cheap to land the former number 3 overall pick, if it indeed does come to be. Plus, we have some other things to take a look at around the NHL, including a nice interview with Elias Pettersson, indicating he's looking for revenge this season. We'll discuss what he's been up to and where his mindset is at. Plus, we have an updated deluxe edition of the EA Sports NHL game featuring the entire Tkachuk family, and we have some quotes from Keith Tkachuk about the future of Brady with the Ottawa Senators. Of course, we've seen tons of rumors over the years about Brady's future. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss in today's video. I want to start off by actually acknowledging a couple of NHL birthdays today, including Sidney Crosby, of course, 8-7 today. 8-7. It was quite a day. August 7th, 1987. Of course, Canada was blessed with Sidney Crosby's birth, and he's been, one of the greatest hockey players of all time. So certainly I want to acknowledge him. He's now 38 years of age, so Sidney Kid is no longer really a kid, but he's still an extremely productive and important NHL player. He also shares a birthday as well with, I know for me being from Fredericton, New Brunswick, what we call our hometown NHL star, Jake Allen. Of course, we haven't produced a ton of NHL players out of Fredericton, but currently Jake is, Stanley Cup champion, and he's our main NHL player. Also shares a birthday with Sid as well. So certainly want to wish those two guys happy birthdays. You can see I'm still on vacation. I will be all week in case you missed yesterday's content, or actually would have been the night before. I'm in Digby, Nova Scotia. We come here every year. We have got some close friends here, and we love it over here. Anyways, beautiful spots along the Bay of Fundy, and some great seafood, great scenery, good friends, and it's just something that we try to do every year. So, so you're going to be seeing some different content here. I don't know if it'll be getting any outdoor content at all, but either way, I'll be in Nova Scotia for the rest of the week. And then we'll be heading into Halifax for a couple of days as well. So you might see some other different looking content from there. As I mentioned, we got word here in the last 48 hours that Matthew Tkachuk was going to be the cover athlete for the EA Sports NHL game. And then we've learned, which we know they always do, a deluxe edition as well, that the deluxe edition is actually the entire Tkachuk family, at least all the NHL players in the lineage here. So you've got Dad Keith Tkachuk in his St. Louis uniform, and then of course Matthew and Sens captain Brady Tkachuk. So obviously we know Matthew and Brady played a big role for Team USA at the Four Nation Face-Off tournament. They're going to play a big role for Team USA again at the upcoming Olympic tournament. And of course Matthew won the Stanley Cup. So we know they grabbed the nation's attention with all the beginning of the game festivities against Team Canada, with all the fights right off the opening face-off, which was caught a lot of people by surprise. I mean, nobody really seen that coming. We've heard a lot of the talk behind the scenes now to see how it kind of lined up, but obviously the Tkachuks are very important, to the NHL for helping drive interest in the game, especially not only in the U.S. but in Canada as well, where Brady's obviously the captain of the Senators, and Matthew now with the Florida Panthers, and both American-born players. But they have connections to Canada. Like their mama is Canadian, in case you didn't know that. So in many ways, they're really like dual citizens, but obviously grew up in the U.S. So consider themselves American-born boys, which you expect. But definitely very influential people for sure in the game of hockey. There's no doubt about that. Now, one thing I want to touch on as well, we've heard a ton of rumors about Brady over the years, and we don't have any new ones to discuss here today. That's not why I bring it up. But Bruce Garriock of the Ottawa Sun conducted an interview on the release here of this NHL Deluxe Edition cover featuring the entire Tkachuk threesome here with Dad and his two boys, and interviewed Keith. And there was an interesting quote from Gary Uck's article that just addressing all the prior rumors around Tkachuk, and I know Ottawa fans have had to deal with that. This past year was actually kind of nice, I think, for Sens fans, that there really wasn't a whole lot of that going on. The team was doing better. They made the playoffs, which winning does solve everything in a lot of ways, but it did squash a lot of that. Brady wants to go to a better team. He's frustrated. He's not winning, whatever. And like there was, at one point there was rumors out of St. Louis that, he was going to do the same thing as his brother. And then it just seemed like there was the New York Rangers had him in their sights. I know Michael Andlauer, the owner of the Sens, even went on record using the term, what did he call it? Soft tampering, I think it was. But anyways, at the end of the day, the team and the fans have had to deal with a lot of speculation around this player. Steve Staios, the GM, has even gone to Brady a few times. He says this, if there's any rumors out there, it's not coming from us. Like, we definitely don't want to trade you. But this quote from Keith I thought was interesting regarding all the rumors around Brady in the past. He says that, I wouldn't believe everything you hear. I think after what happened with Matthew in Calgary, everyone just assumes that it was going to happen with Brady as well. But Brady loves it there. Brady has cemented himself in the community. They're a team on the rise. They've got a great bunch of young players, and they're young core players at that. So it's not just like they're young, but he mentions how their core players are all young and important players with this team as well. And he says the fans in the city have treated him so well that he wants to be a big part of that moving forward. So I don't think he's going anywhere. So I guess if there's ever any kind of confirmation or any type of, if you're a Senators fan or you need some kind of reassurance that Brady loves being in Ottawa, and you just want the rumors to go away, which, like I said, thankfully there haven't been any new ones in a while, because I know that team doesn't need any distractions, but ultimately hearing it straight from his dad that how much he loves it there and wants to be a part of it just kind of reinforces everything Brady says, because Brady says all those things as well publicly whenever he talks about the team and the future and all that. But it can be difficult to kind of take things at face value sometimes when you hear so much speculation in the background. But obviously, like I said, a lot of that rumor is because I know a lot of fan bases will be the first ones to jump and be like that they don't like Brady, but then as soon as they think he's available, they want him on their team, right? So I really just think he's a unicorn kind of player. He's not something that you see across the league very well. And if there's anybody gets a hint that he's available, they want him on their team. And of course, it's not unusual. You see it a lot with other players too. But like when players are, supposedly, the least little bit unhappy, then that's how rumors get spread. And obviously, we talk a lot about rumors here on this channel, and there's some interesting things that get discussed around the league, and sometimes they're not always true, but depending on who's saying them and where they're coming from, you kind of have to give it a little bit of, you have to kind of wonder if there's truth to it, right? Because obviously there's a lot of well-connected people sometimes making some of the comments, and clearly they're not always right. But at the end of the day, I think for Sens fans, a kind of reassurance here that Brady is quite content to lead this team to future success and doesn't appear interested in going anywhere. Now, at some point down the road, would it be shocking if he and his brother tried to team up at the NHL level, not just internationally? Yeah, it wouldn't be shocking, but, we're off to see. Obviously, they're different ages. Matthew's got a long-term deal in Florida, and Florida's got all their guys locked up long-term as well. So, I don't know if that will ever come to be, but, for any time in the foreseen immediate future, I don't think Sens fans have anything to worry about Brady's desire to be the captain of the Sens. So that's, I think, good to hear from that perspective. Also, an interesting interview with Elias Pettersson, of course, the Vancouver Canucks centerman, who certainly had, I don't know what to call last year, frustrating, disappointing. Just a lot of things didn't go well. And his interview that he did here, which I believe was available at NHL.com, basically he says he's looking for revenge. He says that I know what I can do. For my part, I want revenge. I'm not happy with the season that was, but it's done now. There's no point in dwelling on it. I'm learning from what happened last season to be a better and more mature player. Also goes on to say that he's put on a little bit of muscle, which he hopes is always something he's striving for, considering what his build is like, and hoping that extra muscle will help, with speed, agility, and all other aspects of his game. So, Elias Pettersson appears to be interested in coming back on a revenge tour after everything that went wrong last year. It was just interesting because we heard all this stuff about him and JT Miller. And it's just not a common situation where NHL guys can't coexist. I know a lot of people like to give it to Pettersson for, whether he's just inability to deal with, a tough teammate or criticism or what have you. And of course, we're not in that locker room. We don't know the full dynamic of it. We've heard some cases where it appears as though Miller kind of did cross the line. We've heard of other times where maybe, it could be more on Elias' side. I don't know. Like I said, we're not there. But at the end of the day, that relationship did not work. It caused a major ruffle within the team. And they're moving on and they're trying to be better for it. But at the same time, losing a player like Miller, who's, regardless of what was going on in the locker room, really good on-ice player, weakens the team. And Pettersson did not bounce back after Miller left. So obviously, if that relationship and everything being removed didn't really impact things for him, for getting back and getting his head in the right space and being a productive player. But sometimes things take a while, and you also don't know what else he's dealing with from the mental side of the game. We've heard some excuses about the knee tendonitis again. I don't know how much there is to that. Clearly would play a role to some degree, but is it as big a deal as it could be? I don't know. But I just hope for Vancouver's sake that Pettersson is coming in with this right mindset like he's indicating, and that he is hungry and looking for revenge and to kind of right the ship from last year, because that team needs him in the worst way. And I think they're a weaker team, unfortunately, on paper than they have been, especially with everything that's changed there. But if he isn't performing, then they're he's seen what happened. He himself, if he can be a 100-point player, that can be the difference between them even probably being a playoff team versus not. But you take away Miller, then you take away Pettersson, being a shell of himself. It's, that's like your top. Any team basically loses their top two centers. It's not easy. So, yeah, we'll see. Hopefully the revenge tour goes well for Pettersson. Certainly want to wish him a much better 25-26 campaign. And, of course, we've heard a lot about Mason McTavish. A new article from RG.org and Jimmy Murphy talking to some sources, NHL executives. And one team that we haven't heard a ton about when it comes to McTavish and teams that may be interested in trying to trade for the former number 3 overall pick is the Detroit Red Wings. Obviously, the executives that he was talking to anonymously here through this article suggest that the relationship between Pat Verbeek and Steve Yzerman might be preferable here, because obviously those two are really close. They worked together a long time, good friends, and they've done some deals together as well, that it might have an impact. Clearly we know sometimes, not always, but when players are big deals, you often see a player going from east to west or west to east, and players sometimes they don't want to always be traded within the division or within the conference. Sometimes they prefer to send them the opposite way like that. That could be a role, but the relationship sometimes does make a difference. That's why if you look at history, there oftentimes have been teams that have dealt together quite a bit, and it does play some role for sure. But they still indicate that they still feel like the odds are better that the Ducks will keep him and that McTavish won't move, which I do agree with as well. Essentially saying that unless you're going to be willing to really be creative and really make an offer to knock Verbeek's socks off, that it's going to be really hard to pull this off, and he's unlikely going to be able to do it. They mentioned that Montreal and Carolina are teams that have been keeping tabs on them and certainly been, interested. But like I said, the team that might have shown the most serious, stronger level of interest might be Detroit. So again, they continue to show that higher level of interest, but it's going to take a significant offer. This executive source also indicates that unless you're going to be willing to start with like a top 4 right-hand defenseman, like a young top 4 right-hand defenseman who's at the very least either going to be a top 2 now or has that potential in the next little bit to be a top 2. So like he figures Detroit wouldn't want to move Mo Seider. So if you're not moving Seider, then it looks like Sandin Pellikka would be your next option. Like, he's an up-and-coming defenseman, 17th overall in 2023. A lot of people feel he's at the very least a top 4 quality prospect with that potential to be a top pair. Now, if he plays in Detroit and he's behind Seider, then, he's probably going to be topped out at a number 2, or at least second pair. But again, does Detroit want to put together? Then that's a starting point. That's not necessarily a 1-for-1 trade. You're probably looking at adding, maybe is it a Danielson? Is it a Berggren? Is it another younger player in there as well? Maybe a pick. Like, you're looking at getting a pretty good haul. Like I said, he's a projected number 1 centerman with good size, speed, skill set. Like, plays a tough style of game. Like, I don't think Anaheim really wants to move this guy. The only reason there's any speculation is around the fact that they've had a hard time getting a contract done so far. So when you factor all that in the mix, that certainly plays a big role. But, will Detroit be a landing spot for him? It could be, and it wouldn't be shocking to me if that relationship did play a role in everything. But at the end of the day, it's going to take a massive haul to get it done, but they do have the assets. But like I said, obviously, I think the first preference here is to get a contract done and he stay put. And if that happens, well, then they won't be going anywhere. But let me know your thoughts on all of today's news down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.